People of Reddit who are anti-weed. Why? Took me fucking years to shake off the years of weed I smoked. It's all personality. Not everyone that drinks becomes an alcoholic, but as a young kid I definitely was fed the line that it's not addictive and in a weird way good for you. Lots of pluses but really did take over my life and personality. Same. I feel like I let it ruin my life in a lot of ways and it's taken me years to get back on track. I hate thinking about how I would be if I didn't become addicted to it. My friends that smoke make it their entire identity. They used to have hobbies and were passionate about things. Now they're content with whatever and everything has to be about smoking. My friends and I used to smoke weed every day and then do stuff. I stopped smoking when smoking became the thing we were doing. If that makes sense lol. Believe it or not, one of my favorite quotes about weed is from South Park. It's Randy talking to Stan. Stan. I've been told a lot of things about pot, but I've come to find out a lot of those things aren't true. So I don't know what to believe. Randy. Well, Stan, the truth is marijuana probably isn't gonna make you kill people, and it most likely isn't gonna fund terrorism, but well, son, pot makes you feel fine with being bored. And it's when you're bored that you should be learning some new skill or discovering some new science or being creative. If you smoke pot you may grow up to find out that you aren't good at anything. This was the quote that has kinda kept me away from it all these years. That warning really rang true to me amidst all the heavy-handed anti-pot messaging. Go figure. No kidding. I think it's something that should be taken in moderation. Like almost everything, I guess. When I smoke personally, I'm stupid. Like my understanding of certain things is just straight up awful. But sometimes it's okay to be stupid. Sometimes, when I have the day off the following day, nothing to me is quite like taking a couple heavy hits of weed and watching dumb videos for an hour or two before I fall asleep. But that being said, I'm not functional during the day. If I smoke during the day, you can bet I'll sit on my ass and not do anything until I'm sober. For real though. I take edibles in the evening for pain. But there is no way I could take anything and work. I have to be on point for work and weed does not do that for me. I don't take any during the day for the same reason I stopped taking the gabapentin for the nerve pain. It made me dumb and I can't work dumb. However, weed gives me the relief I need in the evenings and wears off by the morning. Gabapentin makes me dumb all the time regardless of when I take it. It's a trade-off. I would much rather partake of the devil's lettuce than opiates. I used to really love getting stoned, but eventually it got to the point where it just made me sad that I felt like I had to get stoned before I watched a movie, or played a game, or had a nice meal. I hated that I had a real fear that if I stopped I wouldn't enjoy those things anymore. January 1, 2022 I decided to give it up, ate my last edible and didn't order anymore. I was undoubtedly a little more of a jerk for the first week or so. But then I caught myself laughing at a show and had this introspective moment of clarity where I realized I was still watching and enjoying movies, I was still enjoying food and games. It's been just over a year now and I don't really miss it at all and I just kinda feel dumb about how important it used to be to me. I miss the ritual of packing a bowl and the act of puffing on a pipe, but I don't miss being high, truly. I still have dreams where I smoke cigarettes though, I don't think that will ever go away and I haven't smoked them in 5 years. Don't smoke cigarettes kids. I quit cigarettes a year ago and still crave them way too much. I thought I'd be over the hump after a year, but I sometimes still get cravings very similar to when I was still a smoker and hadn't had a cigarette all day yet. It's freaking brutal sometimes. -5 years without cigarettes, I still want a fucking cigarette every moment I'm nervous or stressed or anything it's so hard, but it's for my doctor, so I guess I will never smoke cigarettes again. Same. My little one begged me to quit so I did cold turkey. It's been nearly a decade. I think about smoking daily lol. I don't know you, but on behalf of your little one, I just want to say thank you. When I was 7 I begged and cried to my dad asking him to quit after they showed us in school what pig's lungs look like after smoking for years. It terrified me. He promised me he would. He never did. He's been dead for 11 years now, for different reasons, and as much as I love him and will always love him, it's the one thing I still haven't forgiven him for. It would have been one thing if he told me he would try, but it hurt like hell to have him look me in the eyes and promise me he would, then go out the next morning to buy a pack of cigarettes and finish them by the end of that week. I wish you luck. I regretfully know the feeling about how difficult the craving is. I started at 16 and quit 4 months later. Still crave them at 22. I guess maybe I should forgive him after trying it myself lol. I'm sorry to hear that. Thank you for sharing your story with me. I know what it's like to lose your father to cancer as a kid. So terrible and scarring. I'm 35 now and still feel the pain every day. I hope you can forgive your father in time. I miss flicking the butt to ash the cigarette the most. I need some type of cigarette fidget toy. I quit smoking 15 years ago and instead developed like restless hand syndrome. My hands always have to be busy. I cannot just sit and watch a film without either crocheting, scrolling my phone, eating etc. I think it might play a part in why I'm such a big gamer, it keeps my hands busy in a way TV doesn't. And I'm obsessed with blue tack. If I see a piece of it stuck on a wall or on a desk, that's it, it's my hand fidget toy for the rest of the day. Fuck, I've even taken it off the backs of posters and left them hanging by the top two corners, not even sorry. Dude, I relate to this totally. I think I convinced myself that weed made everything better, but as I got older I realized weed made sober life harder. I have always smoked and played games and had the same concern I would enjoy gaming anymore. I probably smoked 5 GS a day at my peak, I went right down to 3 joint a day towards the end of 2022 and went dry on New Year's Day, only consuming nighttime edibles and occasionally hitting a vape if the cravings got bad. It's Jan 17 now and I still haven't smoked and I feel my whole life getting better by the day. I've not been in a bad position, it's just that I'm now much more aware of myself. Edibles has kind of been a little bit of a cheat to help me sleep, but for me the addiction was to sitting down smoking a joint and getting super high. That has gone away and I feel so good at it, I hope I can stick to it. Reading your comment made me realize I'm not alone. I'll try and drop edibles at the end of the month. Drinking CBD coffee has been a game changer. Edibles can be a great way to disrupt a weed habit and turn compulsive consumption into a more planned deliberate choice. Getting used to weed not being an instant effect helps break the pattern. From there it's a lot easier to have a night where you are occupied doing something fun and elect to not consume. The habit is disrupted. Hardest part for a daily smoker to me is getting past one evening and realizing you aren't miserable. Some of my friends went through a similar phase. At some point they couldn't meet up without weed involved. I'm glad that you changed that cause it was sad watching my friends get addicted. I haven't smoked cigarettes for 2+ years now and still find myself smoking in my dreams. Yeah, there was almost a dividing point with some of friends eventually. Half of us would want to go out to the bars, to a party event, play sports etc. And the other half was like, only if we can get high and make 90% of the event about whether we could smoke somewhere beforehand or leave and smoke and then hit the point of well, let's just stay in and smoke. We sort of slowly broke apart where we would just go out and do things and they spent 99% of their time staying and smoking and watching Netflix. Weed culture is really annoying and my friends who peer pressure me into smoking it in spite of my repeated reminders that it doesn't agree with me are equally annoying. Go ahead yourself, just leave me out of it. I'm against marijuana use for people with a still developing brain. There are many studies to show why. Personally I find the lazy stoner type to be true in some cases and I find those people to be very annoying. I have some friends and family like this who stay high most of the day. It's a minority though I am sure so that doesn't really inform my general opinion on weed, but it is something I steer clear from when developing new relationships. Edit. Yes, feel the same way for drinking. I dated a guy who smoked constantly. I was pretty young and naive and he told me it helped with his ADHD and arthritis in his hands. We used to go for dates, but after an hour or two he'd eventually be like nudging me to go back to his place. His laundry machine broke so we went to my place to do laundry. Then after he put the laundry in it was ugh I'm bored here, let's go back to my house and hang for 45 minutes and we'll come back. So I drove all the way across town again. This happened all the time. I broke up for other reasons, but it wasn't until after the breakup that I realized he was always pushing to go home because he was sobering up and needed to get high again. He could buy joints and bring them with him, but he had such a tolerance he needed 2 or 3 bong rips, so joints weren't enough. I have personally made a decision to not date people that smoke frequently. Dealing with this type of personality was so annoying. Me, hey man, you want to go get lunch? Them? Yeah, I will be right over, I just gotta smoke. Them? Hey, mind if I drive, I want to smoke and you don't want us doing it in your car. Once we get there. Them? Hold on, I have to smoke before I eat. After we are leaving. Them? I have to smoke real quick. It's extremely annoying and it takes so long for that person to pack their bowl and smoke. I'm a huge stoner and these people drive me crazy lol. Same, my Bill has to smoke before we go anywhere. He'll say he'll be real quick but always ends up taking 30 minutes to an hour. I love being high, but I don't need to be high 24/7. Partly they are full of crap when they say it will be real quick and partly they have lost all sense of how long things actually take. Did we date the same person? I had the same experience dating someone who couldn't go long without it. I don't smoke personally and don't care what others do, but having your whole day centered around when you can smoke weed is a lot. He also constantly complained about financial problems while spending hundreds on weed in a month. Laughing my ass off, same guy, I swear to God, he blew his rent money on weed and texted me in crisis because he didn't have the foresight that rent was due on the 1st. But he had a part-time job and dropped half his university classes. He played video games all day. No car. Still was constantly overwhelmed by his own bad choices. After a while I was tired of trying to get my own shit together and having to help him get his shit together too. Been a lot better off without him lol. I was 21 and he was 25, for reference. I have some acquaintances like this and I'm constantly just boggled about how an adult can be so irresponsible. I wouldn't be able to stand living with him. They talk about how they could have gotten a good job but refused to do any homework in school so dropped out of college despite being plenty intelligent. They work at a weed store now and are constantly stepping out to smoke and vape. All he does is play video games and get high. His apartment is disgusting and I'm just like GD man, just grow up a few years and get a couple real life goals made. You could do so much better. Irisis. Edit. Thanks everyone who was mentioning ADHD. I don't know this person very well but definitely agree, I would never tell them to just grow up or anything. I hadn't actually tried it until I was 29 and the first few times it was take it or leave it. Then COVID hit, I took another stab at it and became very focused on how well it relieved my anxiety and depression from the state of the world. But after a couple years of coping through it, it just kind of wore off as being effective in any helpful way, so I just naturally stopped without really thinking about it. Nicotine on the other hand, which I didn't try for the first time until 2 years ago, I regret ever letting the fling that I flung getting me into it and every day is a battle. Even when I quit it for 2 weeks, the withdrawal still eats away. I smoked for 30 plus years. I tried quitting dozens and dozens of times and didn't think I was ever going to quit. I was then recommend the book Alan Carr's Easy Way to Quit Smoking. It was a quick read and I haven't smoked or even had an urge to smoke in over 2 years. Maybe it can change your life like it did mine. Someone who I'm not friends with anymore was incredibly dependent on weed and got her son into it and they'd smoke together. I brought up the studies with weed in his developing brain and she didn't listen and just ignored it, saying it's a plant and nothing is wrong with it. It made me lose all my respect for her as I watched him go from a really smart, sharp kid to someone lazy, glassy-eyed, and a shell of his former self. I don't like weed because it is still a drug to get addicted to, and she was the perfect example. She'd wake and bake every single day and smoke 3 to 4 X a day, she got her son into it and now he's dependent on it and when she would periodically try to quit that ultimately failed after a month or two, she was mean and angry as hell. Her entire life revolved around weed and getting high to the point where she would never get a job that would set up retirement because they'd drug test. And when she was asked to do one she would go to extreme lengths to get around it like buying monkey piss or intentionally ruining the sample with period blood. I don't care what anyone says, weed isn't as innocent as it's being portrayed and I absolutely do not like it. I'm not against weed itself, I'm against people smoking it in the downstairs history hall bathrooms and making the entire downstairs smell like weed and then complaining about how no one likes them. Yep, I'm not against weed at all and have smoked it myself, but what smells good to some people is an overpowering awful skunky smell to others. I'm one of the skunk smell people. It's literally my only reason to be anti-weed. So I'm anti-joint, technically. I'm the same, I've only ever done edibles for this reason. Same, can't stand the smell of it and how it gets into everything. I also dislike how many people think it's safe to drive on because it's not alcohol of getting cut off by an inattentive driver, then getting hit with the stank as the cherry on top.